What I'm talking about is something that is only partially well known to most people. Of course, everyone knows about AI, but what about neurotechnologies? And also, what I'm trying to say is that we have the wrong idea of what's going on. What we think is going on is basically this. You know, the idea is that we would perhaps have a cap that would basically try to read some data from what's going on inside our brain, the EEG, and then connect that with a computer, and perhaps this way we could, for example, control the computer just by our mind. And we are thinking of neurotechnologies as what Elon Musk is actually proposing, is to create a computer chip that can be implanted in our brain, and thereby larger amounts of data could be read out, and this way we could exactly do what I said before, interact with computers and with the rest of the world. And what Elon Musk actually thinks is we can and perhaps we should merge our minds with machines. And he says we should do that basically to stay competitive. In other interviews, he has said we should do that to survive.
Yeah.
Okay, so he's getting a serious issue here, all right? So this is the picture that we have in mind. We've seen many times, right, those caps with lots of electrodes, and this way brain waves could be read out. And in fact, it has been used in order to help disabled people or other abled people. And this is just one famous example where such technology was connected. I think there was also a surgery involved in this case. And this suddenly allowed her to communicate with her husband again. And as you can see, she makes a joke. You know, that's kind of the first thing she does. It's a very positive experience, pretty amazing. And another famous example is this one. I think that took place at EPFL in Switzerland, where they have been bridging a disconnected nerve, and this way basically could make this person walk again. Okay? So another application that people have in mind is to boost human intelligence. As we all know, as compared to AI, now, at least the speed at which we process data and information is much slower. So people are thinking about upgrading themselves using machines, okay? And here's one of the persons who is an internationally well-known expert. It's Marcella Jenka. And sorry for the German title over here, I'm translating it for you. This technology can make biblical wonders come true. You know, if you can make lame people walk again, if you can make blind people see, and if you deaf people hear, and people who couldn't talk communicate again, you know, this was considered to be a wonder, right? Now technology allows one to do things that look like wonders, at least from a perspective of the past. But it's very different, you know, it's not spiritual, it's technological, okay? And here's another example, well known, very famous. So who knows who that is? Stephen Hawking. He had the chair in physics that was inheriting Isaac Newton, I think. Despite his health condition, he was able to write books about black holes and the history of time, as you may remember. So, he's a brilliant mind, obviously, but he had great difficulty to communicate with his environment, and technology obviously helped him. Despite he must have been very favorable of technology, he was also saying this about AI and the development of AI. Humans, he said, who are limited by slow biological evolution couldn't compete and would be superseded. The development of full artificial intelligence could spell the end of the human race. It could take off on its own and redesign itself at an ever-increasing rate. So, despite he was benefiting from this kind of technology, he was very much concerned about the future of this technology. Would we, as humans, stay in control, or what will happen? And the question now comes up, where do we actually stand in terms of this technological development? And it's a bit difficult because there's only limited data points about it. Because military would not tell us what they're doing in detail, military secrecy, and businesses would not tell us what they're doing because it's business secrecy, right? So we have a pretty partial picture. And that makes things difficult. But there are some data points, and I leave it to you to draw your own conclusions. So this is dating back to December 2003. And as you can see, it's a patent entitled System for Producing Artificial Telepathy. That means technological transmission of thoughts from one brain to another brain, right? Then in 2008, we had this article, Army Developing Synthetic Telepathy. In 2014, this article said, scientists prove that telepathic communication is within reach. That was 12 years ago. And then here, 2017, this former Google X executive was building a high-tech that she says would make telepathy possible in 8 years. 17 plus 8 is 25 last year, okay? Last year, this should have happened. Then this article says the mobile phone of the future will be implanted in your head. Who of you has a mobile phone implanted in your head? Everyone has, the old-fashioned mobile phones, May still look fashionable, okay, but what if you had another mobile phone in your head, on top of the one that you're using every day? Who thinks that would be possible?
Possibility.
Okay. Courageous. And let's see, what was the prediction? Back in 2016, the World Economic Forum, that interacts with all those companies, that expected date 2023, first implantable mobile phone. Okay? So, what is the situation like? Oh, there's also this actually patent. Who's using AirPods? All right. How do you feel about it? So here's a patent. AirPods will soon read your mind. A recent Apple patent suggests. Well, You love it? Okay, and then back in 2024, actually end of 2023, this was the look ahead into the year 2024 of The Economist, and it has this famous title page towards the end of the year where they indicate what would be coming in the year following. That was 2024, okay? And I've magnified this part, and you can see this. So it shows an all-seeing eye, and it shows brains connected with cables, okay? That's perhaps the fictional part. With the all-seeing eye, okay? So it says nothing else than brain surveillance will come up in 2024, okay? So I leave it there, So the question is, did it ever happen? Why did it never happen? Or did we just not notice it happened, So what happened really? And now it's time for you, basically, after my talk, of course, to go to the internet and do your own research and figure out, what the situation is according to your own judgment, What we kind of got used to, not happy about perhaps, is that we were put under the microscope by the digital age, right? And it's mass surveillance. It's not the only Secret Service that collects data about us, that spies into our lives. Every Secret Service is doing that. I guess every military too. And the question is, what else is possible apart from the things that we've heard about? And so, for example, we all use Wi-Fi, it's also in this room. Can you use it as a measurement device? Have you thought about that? So this paper suggests that you could build a Wi-Fi ID, that means human identification using Wi-Fi signals. Right. That means, in other words, while you do private browsing at home and saying nobody is watching what they're watching, Wi-Fi could figure out who is actually sitting in front of that computer. Or why do you think they invented private browsing? Yeah. Okay, there's more you can do. You can see through walls. Okay, so from outside of this room, using Wi-Fi, one can see me give this presentation, okay? Not in color, perhaps, but, at least the shape. And then even you can use Wi-Fi signals to measure heart rate. No wearables needed. Did you know this? Do you like it? No? Okay. What else will be possible? That's the question. And back in 2017, the famous technology exhibition, CeBIT, was opened by Angela Merkel, then Chancellor of Germany, with her Japanese colleague, and they were basically announcing Society 5.0 to be our future. But then what is actually Society 5.0? Do you know? Does anybody know? 2017 is almost 10 years ago, So, this is the picture. We started off with Society 1.0, the Hunter and Gatherer Society. Then came the Agrarian Society, the Industrial Society, we all know this. Then the Information Society. And if you thought we are living in the Information Society, you really need an update, because we are already in the Society 5.0. And why have you not heard about it? Because of the attention economy. You were distracted. But there are books about it, quite a few books. And so what is Society 5.0? It's what results from Industry 4.0. And what is Industry 4.0 about is the fourth industrial revolution. It's what comes with cyber physical systems. I mean, systems that fuse the cyber world and information world with the real world, the physical world, okay? And one of the technologies that this is based on is the Internet of Things. These are little measurement sensors, often very cheap, very small, that are connected to the internet and allow you to measure all sorts of things. Temperature, noise, CO2, humidity, whatever you may be interested in. There are tons of such sensors, and there are actually much more sensors in this world than people on this planet. Billions, in other words, okay? I guess by now it's, what we see, oh, we have passed 50 billion back in 2020. Okay, it's much more than that. All right, and so what is Industry 4.0 about? It's about Internet of Things, I mentioned that. It's about artificial intelligence, okay, no surprise, advanced robotics, okay, we would have expected that too, but also it mentions gene editing. That's a Wikipedia article. And so the question is, where does that actually come in? You know, are they talking about plants, bacteria, gain of function? Are they talking about humans, perhaps? You know, what are they really talking about? The article doesn't say so, but I can show you this. Back in 2004, the New York Academy of Sciences had the symposium about the co-evolution of human potential and converging technologies. Okay, sounds promising. But what are converging technologies? These are the technologies that come together, that converge. So information technology, that's the I in the NBIC technologies. Information technology comes together with communication, biotechnology, nanoscience, and hey, now it gets interesting, cognitive science. Okay? So this is interfacing with our brain, in other words, right? Yes. This is not disputed. This is established. We have that by now. And also back in 2004, there is this article published officially by, I think, the European Commission. It's about converging technology shaping the future of European societies. That's us, assuming that Switzerland is also a European society. And it says, nano, bio, info, cogno, socio, antro, philo, geo, eco, orbo, macro, micro, nano, bio, info, cogno, and so on. Kind of everything, including our society and ecosystems, will be connected. Okay? That was seen to be our future back in 2004. And what has happened in 22 years? What do you think? Do you feel connected, well connected with the world? Who feels well connected? Okay, now back in 2020, the World Economic Forum published this article, Tracking How Our Bodies Work Could Change Our Lives. Okay, that's not the controversial part. Everyone understands that immediately. It also says that collecting our physical data via a range of devices that can be implanted, okay, swallowed, or worn. So who had a cup of coffee today? Who's eating some stuff? Okay. So have you swallowed any devices? What do you think? And then 2 months later, they told us the Internet of Bodies is here. That was quick. Okay. And they also tell us recent technological advancements have ushered in a new era of the Internet of Bodies with an unprecedented number of connected devices and sensors being affixed or even implanted and ingested into the human body. An unprecedented number of devices. So this is not your smartphone and your smartwatch. These are two devices, okay? An unprecedented number of devices, kind of 1,000 or 1,000,000 or 1,000,000,000,000, or actually, this is, in scientific terms, the Internet of Nanothings, or Internet of Bio-Nanothings we're talking about. So what are nanoparticles? Nanoparticles are up to a size of 100 nanometers. That's a 10,000th of a millimeter. I mean, you cannot see it with your eyes. And it fits beautifully into the cells of your body. So you can upgrade your cells by putting some nanoparticles inside. So how can you do that? By eating, drinking, air, environment, and medicine, okay? Who thinks you've been doing that in the past? So, here's the summary table. Most frequent nanoparticles in Internet of Bodies and converging technology context. Okay. Gold, silver nanoparticles? Okay, that sounds like beautiful. Yeah, it's made you more valuable, right? Carbon-based nanomaterials, including graphene, semiconductor nanoparticles, and nanowires, quantum dots, magnetic nanoparticles, and nano antennas, okay? These are not all. And if you want to know how they look like if you would take a microscope and amplify them, I think perhaps you need an electronic microscope even, or this is made up visualizations. It's so small, but yeah, we imagine it to be so beautiful. Okay, just suppose you have that in the cells of your body. And then the question is, what kinds of brain-computer interfaces are becoming possible? So you were feeling safe, right? Because Elon Musk told you you need to buy this computer chip and need to undergo a surgery, and you thought by yourself, I don't mind because I will never buy such a thing, huh? This is what you thought? Well, what if there is so-called non-invasive, okay, neuro-nanotechnology that can actually connect to the internet, and you don't need a surgery? Wouldn't that be beautiful? Well, question mark. Yeah. Okay, so why am I saying things? Because back in 2013, Barack Obama thought coming up with this brain project for $3 billion, that's a cheap thing, was so important he would have to announce this research program himself. Okay? And then this article says, right now the steering committee consists largely of experimental neuroscientists. Okay, that's what we would have expected, but it also says, and nanotechnologists. Oops. And then there is also this article, it's a scientific article from the year 2013, same year, which says nanoscience and nanotechnology are poised to provide a rich toolkit of novel methods to explore brain function by enabling simultaneous measurement and manipulation of activity of thousands or even millions of neurons. We and others refer to this goal as the Brain Activity Mapping Project. At that time, it apparently was still a plan, but now, 13 years later, what has happened? Also, there's this paper, Human Brain Cloud Interface. Would you want to upload your brain to the cloud? And there are also articles like this, like wireless recording in the peripheral nervous system with ultrasonic neural dust. So neural dust is also based on nanoparticles, okay? So how would this work in more detail? And perhaps the most interesting technology in this context is what we call optogenetics. So in this article published by one of the German Academies of Science, AKTech, it said optogenetics explores ways to stimulate genetically modified nerve cells using light pulses instead of electricity. Okay, here's where the genetically modified comes up. Okay, so basically, you could upgrade your nerve cells by genetic modification, then connect yourselves through light, not old-fashioned Wi-Fi, through light with your environment and read out lots of data, and write in lots of data. Okay, here we have optogenetic neural dust. And this article, I think, published in Nature, is about optogenetic control of RNA function and metabolism using engineered light switchable RNA binding proteins. Amazing, huh? What you can do. Okay, and then basically it's about advances in deep brain imaging with quantum dots. Oh, quantum dots are back. Structural, functional, and disease-specific roles. And then this article is about capturing the glow of quantum dots with a smartphone, So is your smartphone perhaps doing the job of collecting all that data, Then there's also this interesting thing over here. So in the past we had 2G, 3G, 4G, and it was all based on diffuse radiation. Okay? But 5G is different. It uses beamforming technology. It can be pointed at you. And in this way, theoretically speaking, it could also create, for a very short time, intensities that would basically induce transitions of electrons to other levels, and once the electron goes back to its original state, it emits some light, and you could measure that, okay? And there are many frequencies that theoretically you can use. So these are all electromagnetic waves. And we just see this little part. Everything else we don't perceive. We don't have the sensors for that, okay? So, for example, infrared we don't perceive, ultraviolet we don't perceive, X-rays we don't perceive, but it's still there, And where is it? Microwaves we don't perceive, okay? Who would put their hands in the microwaves? Nobody? Why not?
It will burn you.
Huh?
It will burn you. I mean, the water inside of you is gonna get warmer. I don't know. I have never done it.
So you're positive about it. Okay, here we go. Here is a paper about Internet of Bodies, a systematic survey on propagation, characterization, and channel monitoring. So this is about the frequency that you can use, basically. And then you have a look at 2G, 3G, 4G, 5G, okay? And those are the frequencies that they were using. And actually 5G is more than that. 5G has additional frequency bands, including millimeter waves. These are microwaves, okay? Perhaps not the same intensity than your microwave at home, but still microwaves, okay? And actually, you can make a lot of money on it because you can license this technology. There's attorney you can ask basically to do that for you. And this is not the end because 6G is next, okay? When Donald Trump said that with 6G we can see all the details of the skin surface, he was ridiculous because the media thought that was nonsense, but in fact, yes, you can see details of the surface of your skin with that. You can measure it and you can turn it into a picture. It's not a camera, but it can be used like a camera, okay? It can be used for many other things. So it can be used basically for molecular communication. Very targeted, much higher precision. Okay, so I was talking about the millimeter waves, the microwaves. Okay, they're being used also, just in case you go to war, you shouldn't worry, like the government says. It's used at the airport, so it's fine. And it's for your safety and security, so it's fine. And yeah, you should imagine it a little bit like fluorescence or infrared pictures, It's like some other frequency bands in which they can do all sorts of measurements and you would not notice it, okay? And perhaps you've seen also these pictures where you've wondered what should all those rays coming out from the brain or going into the brain, what should they mean? It did make sense to me also for a long time. And now I do think it is really about optogenetics. So neural activity monitoring and modulation. Modulation means change, right? Kind of manipulation. And then also, this is a picture in one of the IBM brochures, I think. And I found it interesting. They're talking about bits and qubits. So these are quantum bits, quantum computers. And neurons, It's also part of their computing system, apparently, At least this is how I read it. And in fact, back in 2013, there was an article about the development of real-time in vivo sensors. And 2017 also about this, using magnetic nanoparticles. Yeah. Okay. And then DARPA has this platform, in vivo nano platform, interestingly enough. You don't tell us much about it, but it exists. And also back in 2019, that was before the World Economic Forum was announcing the Internet of Bodies was here. about Tel-led team was winning a DARPA award to develop injectable bidirectional brain-computer interfaces. That was before the pandemic, and then everyone was distracted and nobody cared, nobody paid attention. So, and then there's a next generation non-surgical neurotechnology, okay? The high performance bidirectional brain machine interfaces, and it sounds amazing, you know, pretty much like the synthetic telepathy thing, right? Who'd like to have this synthetic telepathy, kind of communicate with other brains? You know? Be honest, you know, wouldn't that be a great thing to have? Perhaps, right? So it would not require surgery and would be man-portable, thus making technology accessible to a far wider population of potential users. Hey, I think you're talking to us, right? And then there was this brochure that was published by the UK Ministry of Defence in collaboration with the Bundeswehr Office for Defence Planning in Germany. And it says the future of human augmentation should not be decided by ethicists, that's you, or public opinion, me. And perhaps this is the reason why they think this way. Economic forces will have a strong influence on human augmentation development, and they may not be in the best interest of society. Okay, perhaps they write about that, but then also they write, it could be argued that treatments involving novel vaccination processes and gene and cell therapies are examples of human augmentation already in the pipeline. That was, I think, before the vaccination started. I'm not trying to imply any connection here, but you make up your mind yourself, okay? Anyway, so suppose you were guided what to do and think next. Or could this be done? Would it be desirable? So imagine one could build a generative AI that could be used to steer human behavior and perhaps entire societies. Perhaps we would not need to know exactly how every single brain looks like. Perhaps 1 million parameters that you can change are enough to manipulate your behavior and thinking and emotions in quite some detail, don't you think so? So we don't perhaps need to understand the brain, we can manipulate it anyway. AI will figure out how. It just runs enough experiments, millions of experiments on humans, and it will figure out. Okay? Would that imply any problems? What do you think? Oh, we could reinvent capitalism. Neurocapitalism. What about this, you know? So we could measure your thoughts and we could sell it to anybody who's interested in your thoughts, like your enemy, for example, if you have any, hopefully not, but or yeah, so this is about extraction and exploitation of your thoughts. So what is it? The potential of BCIs, brain-computer interfaces, is for humans to merge and achieve a symbiosis with artificial intelligence. This is Elon Musk, and within recent years, several big tech companies that operate with the surveillance economy have begun developing their own BCI. So it's basically the next step after surveillance capitalism. You know, surveillance capitalism was already able to surveil you and in this way figure out who you are, where you were, what you were doing, what were you shopping, whom you know. And as they said, like Eric Schmidt when he was the CEO, we more or less know what you are thinking about. Infer from the data of what you were doing. Okay, that was kind of back 2010, 11, 12, 30s. This is what they could do then, you know, surveillance capitalism. What can they do now? Now, what if they can shape your thoughts and feelings and behaviors, right? I mean, that was the thing that was missing, basically, right? So, basically, apart from reading data and selling it, you could figure out what you want or what you don't want. And hey, even before you push a button, they could basically send it to you, you know, and withdraw the amount of money from your bank account. They would know already beforehand whether you would be happy about it or not. You know, wouldn't that be like paradise? Like, you know, you think about it, it happens, you don't have even to do anything. Next thing, however, is they could actually shape your desires, right? So, say, company did not sell as much stuff this month, and so they're worried about stock value, stock markets, and so you need to sell more stuff. So basically, they make you wish certain kind of things. Hey, and here we go. Advertisers are hijacking your dreams, scientists say. Sure. Could they do such a thing? Would that be possible? Well, back in 2021, I believe, or two, I was giving the statics talk. Who's messing with your digital twin? And was warning that body, mind, and soul would be for sale. Now have a look at this video. I do think that the authors of this paper about brain-computer interfaces and the dangers of neurocapitalism are right because of the power inherent in the technology and its potential ruinous abuses. Action must be taken before the appearance of the technology and not come as a reaction to it. Well, back in 2019, this article said brain reading tech is coming and the law is not ready to protect us. Question is it ready now? There have been attempts. UNESCO was actually looking into this issue of neural rights and ethics, was making recommendations about it. Was back in 2024. And also the United Nations was taking it up shortly later, and they're making attempts to protect our human right, UN human right of freedom of thought, Article 18. We have it, but nobody is actually defending it. That's the issue. Now, why should we defend it? Because also there's the possibility to use it for warfare, right? Yes. So, if somebody can know everything about you, including what you think and feel, and make you do certain things you may not know you have been made to do these things. You have not been informed. You may not agree even with it, but you do it anyway because basically you have no idea what's happening and why, you know. Suppose we are in this time. So how could military use it? They could use it for cognitive warfare. And in fact, there are military documents, even public ones, about cognitive warfare. So this turns our mind into a battleground, right? So basically, different countries, the militaries of different countries, are trying to change our minds in favor of their political system. And then big tech corporations are trying to do the same thing in order to make us buy certain kind of products or, you know, services, whatever. So kind of, there are many instances that are trying to change our mind competitively. So it's a war for our minds. Even though officially in this country we're living in a time of peace. Nobody has declared war against Switzerland or Germany or France or whatever, no? Nobody has declared war against you or me, but it's happening anyway. Okay, read this article. It's quite interesting. It's not yet about neurotechnology. Just add neurotechnology and it gets a lot worse. There are these books about military neuroscience and about mind wars, and there's also this article over here, back from the year 2019. It's a NATO publication, as you can see here. And this says, instead of devices connected to the internet as in the Internet of Things, human bodies can be connected to a network with the potential to be controlled and monitored remotely. Isn't that amazing? And yeah, some people have been thinking about it. Could we fix the world from a control room? You know, could we build a digital twin of the world and its people? And they've tried to do that. I'd say they've done it. They have used the surveillance data about every one of us in order to feed it into a learning black box. An AI system that would learn the more data you feed it to behave and think like you. And that can be used to make experiments with a digital twin. If they want you to do this or to think that or feel that, they would experiment with your digital twin to figure out what kind of information do I need to expose you, what kind of situation do I need to get you in order to think or feel or do this. This can be optimized using digital twins. And in fact, yes, one of the purposes is making the world more predictable, but that also requires to make it more controllable, to control human behavior. And so this approach, I think, lacks privacy protection, lacks ethics, lacks democracy, and it even lacks, from my point of view, science. Pretty much a black box approach. It's ignoring scientific knowledge, in particular complexity science. So we are at the end. And I'd like to close by reminding you, if you don't control your mind, someone else will. Thank you for your interest.